Right in front of me, last three. Got one. Got two. Got them all. Next to me. Let's go! You got me!
They win $60,000 for that.
Do we win?
MVP across the board. What an absolute beast.
Just shout out to all the fans. Let's go!
Chances are, you've probably seen clips of your favorite Fortnite pro absolutely dominating the scene, but how did they get so good? I'm your host Ricky, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that I feel often gets lost in the vast sea of Fortnite tricks and tips videos. Now if you're like me, your games go somewhat like this.
2 hours later.
Bada bop boom pow.
How did they think that was okay to even put it in the game? I'm so sick of this f***ing company. Mitr0's!
What do you mean I should die?
Well, what I mean is, no matter what skill level you are, there's always something you can learn from dying in game. But let's go back to the roots of the problem. Why are people so afraid of dying?
How are you gonna eat food and play video games? That's just how simple it is for me.
Let's journey into the moment right before it all happens. In your final second, your entire life flashes by for what feels like an eternity, and it's finally all over. What the f***? Not so bad after all. Ever since the beginning of gaming history, the main goal of a game was to not die. Dying was the ultimate threat to the progression of your gameplay. It was always there to serve as something that would prevent you from taking risks in game. This brings me to my first point. Don't be afraid of dying. The worst that can happen to you is you simply respawn and you go into another game. Of course, the game can get tilting at times, but the only thing limiting your growth is your mentality.
I can't do it anymore!
Here's why dying helps.
But how does dying help?
Imagine a player that was always calm and collected. He seems as if he knew exactly what was going on. He calculates every detail in his head and then proceeds to absolutely dominate the game.
Mitr0 versus Aragonist. He's testing his might. He's gonna drop down a little bit, get closer.
Dude, if he can create a small opening here, he can actually send him.
Oh! No way! No way! Mitr0!
Let's go back to the beginning of that clip. He knows that the last guy is underneath, so he builds floors to fully protect himself. He edits a corner of the floor and uses the third-person camera to peek through the hole. At this point, he's confident that he can pull off a shockwave grenade play. Now at the time of this recording, shockwaves were still in the game, and they allowed you to displace yourself or others while simultaneously breaking anything in the way. Mitr0 builds himself a roof, which he uses to shockwave himself straight down, landing a perfect pump shot. Now that's 200 IQ. Or is it? Now this isn't some genius performing 100 micro calculations per second. This is the result of a good player that has exposed himself to as much information as possible within the digital boundaries of the game. This brings me to my second point. What are the boundaries? There are none. The speed of your improvement is limited by how much exposure you're willing to give to yourself. Let's talk building. It's a huge aspect of the game. Throughout the 8 seasons of Fortnite, building has become such an important factor in determining the outcome of any fight. You've probably heard of the line, just get high ground.
Is it one guy?
Yeah, it's one guy.
I'm going.
Yeah, I'm
I have height.
Nice.
Now, getting high ground is just one of the many building strategies when taking on a build fight, but in some cases, being a low ground warrior will serve to your advantage. But how do you figure these things out? Just build your way into death. By this, I don't mean go around griefing your teammates, or just being overly aggressive. Building your way into death means taking on build fights that you personally feel you have a low chance of winning. Exposing yourself to these scenarios is really important because it will directly help you improve your weakest points. In my personal experience, I used to play squads with my friends, and I would never be the one that pushed in first because there's just no way I could ramp rush better than those sweaty kids. I always sat in the back and I shot from afar. My biggest weakness at the time was so obvious, but I never chose to expose myself to these situations. Now here's a clip of me trying to take on somebody hiding in a 1x1. Normally I try to avoid these fights because quite frankly, I suck at doing wall retakes. He noticed that I was trying to break in, and he understands that it only takes 2 hits to break wood. After the second swing, my character is stuck inside the pickaxe animation. Now this puts me at a disadvantage because I now move slower and I cannot shoot, which also makes me a very easy target, ending in a pump shot to my face, and also my death. Here's where the magic happens. I want you guys to imagine an EXP bar at the bottom of your screen. Every single encounter is going to level you up as a player. But remember, it's not about dying, it's about the learning experience that you get from it. For my next encounter with someone hiding in a 1x1, instead of trying to break through his front wall, I'm gonna try to break 2 walls at the same time. This will make my break-in a lot less predictable. Here is another clip of me trying to push somebody who currently has high ground. He managed to hit me multiple times and ends up killing me at the top. It's very common that you'll find yourself pushing another guy who already has high ground. Although I try to protect myself, there are small windows of opportunity for his bullets to pass through. Every bit of damage is dangerous game, especially from a high ground warrior, simply because the angle allows him to have better chances of hitting headshots. Let's go back to the Unwrap headquarters. I came up with 2 methods in order to deal with this situation. One method is to build 2 layers of protection using a roof and a pyramid. Even if the bullet manages to slip right through the first layer, the second layer will most definitely catch the bullet. Once the enemy starts to reload, you can safely push up. The second method is if the situation is time sensitive. You need to get to the top as fast as possible and win the trade. For this one, you just need to double ramp and use double floors to protect yourself from above. Edit through the floors as you run up and keep your movements random so they don't know where to shoot. Now this also applies for gunfights. There are a lot of guns in the game and mastering each one takes time. You should always play out the fight and focus on trying to deal as much damage as you can and don't worry about dying. The scariest kind of player is the one that will still aim with perfection and confidence while all hell is breaking loose. Now I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you really just need to experience the losing end of a gunfight to really learn from it. There are times when you hit insane headshots or crazy kills, but until you're able to replicate those same shots consistently, there's still a lot of luck involved. One of the most frustrating things is getting tagged or killed by someone that hit you with a desync shot. Yes, it does feel like absolute BS 99% of the time, but it might mean that you just have to take a more strategic approach and try to only take shots when you have priority. My point being, anything that happens is fair game and you can learn from it.
How can you get better and improve at the game? And don't go for wins when you start playing a Battle Royale. You need to go for kills, you need to play, learn how to build, learn the mechanics of the game, learn where the chests are, be aggressive until you feel comfortable enough that you can win enough fights or win any 1v1 fight, really, and then you can go for the wins and slow down your playstyle.
Although a lot of the time a gunfight is associated with hitting sick flicks and getting insane headshots, a lot of the game is about building your gun confidence levels. It's natural that every player in Fortnite has their own preferred gun loadout, but it makes a world of difference if you're proficient with every weapon. Now a huge portion of this is really just taking on the don't knock it till you try it approach. I don't mean just using the gun once and then saying you're allergic to it and then never touching it again. What I mean is you should really try to get to know each weapon to the point that you're confident enough to fight with it even if it's the only one that you can find. Each weapon in Fortnite caters to a specific playstyle, and learning the weapon also means learning how the enemies will use that weapon against you. Back when pumps were still in the game, learning how to play extreme close range turtle fights and going for those one pump edit shots was the playstyle to learn. In response, players had to learn how to turtle better and edit faster. Now if you guys were like me, at one point I used to absolutely hate the snipers because it was just so hard to hit the shots. I didn't feel like it was worth it to use or even hold it in my inventory. I feel like my turning point was when I finally hit a shot without having to quote unquote try. It almost felt like I did it out of instinct or out of habit. Sometimes it really just takes that extra bit of motivation to feel like you're making any progress. But I promise that it will happen if you guys put your time into it. Get a feel for bullet drop, get a feel for how much lead you need to give your shots, and over time, you'll definitely see improvement. So as you guys know, Season 9 has brought about a ton of changes. Now, one of the biggest changes being the pump getting vaulted and the introduction to its replacement, the combat shotgun. This game took a huge meta-changing update overnight and is in a very weird state. Some people aren't taking shotguns at all, some people are running tac shotguns, some are even running 2 drum guns. The combat shotgun is in such an awkward spot while people are trying to still figure out if it's really worth the shot. If anything, this is the prime time to put yourself to the test as a player and see if you can evolve your playstyle and find out what loadout works for you in Season 9. As strong as the drum gun is, I feel like there's some hidden potential with the combat shotgun. From its high fire rate to its compact bullet spread, this gun can be a mid-range beast. Before I get too far off on a tangent, let me know what you guys think of the combat shotgun. Now this all sounds great on paper and all, but how do we take this information and make use of it? All you have to do is just remember the 3 main points. Number 1, don't be afraid of dying. Number 2, expose yourself to as much as possible in the game. Number 3, don't go for wins unless you absolutely need to. So the moral of the story? No matter what skill level you are, you can really take your gameplay to a whole new level. It's more about just being open-minded to every situation, resulting in death as an opportunity to grow as a player. If you die, you can easily respawn and take on another battle in a whole new playground where you can learn again. Anyway, that's all for today's video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.